Hi guys, and welcome to Wednesday's class for the lockdown series, the movement first aid series. So last week we were focusing on the cross-step hops, and today we're going to look at a different level of movement. So what exactly do I mean by that? When I refer to levels of movement in general, I am describing level 1, level 2, and level 3. So usually level 1 is at standing level, level 2 is at a kneeling level, and level 3 is either lying down on the back. As such, or could be completely flat in this sort of position. Anywhere where we are as close to the floor as possible would be considered our ground level position. So from here, we're going to take a look at what looks like the top position to the Reverse De La Riva, okay? Or some people call this the inside De La Riva position. I just want you to take a few moments to observe yourself in this position. Where is the weight distributed in this position? So as we can see from a small 3/4 view angle, majority of my weight lies in my right leg at this moment. We can also observe the heel to bottom connection here. And we can also observe that there is no space between my calf and my hamstring muscle here. Let's take a look at the left foot from here. So from here, something that I like to focus on a lot is actually having a side foot position, as opposed to having my foot completely flat and planted on the floor. Now, depending on where this leg is positioned, this will also slightly change my weight distribution. If it is flat, depending on your flexibility, your mobility, this will also change the position. And with this side foot, the side foot usually allows me to push from the side of my foot into my partner's body. As you can see, I can direct the force from the side of my foot into my partner, okay? Now, generally speaking, in this position, my partner's leg exists in the space here. So in order to use this move more effectively in a shadow grappling situation, we need to imagine that that space does still exist in this exercise, okay? So that does make this a little bit more challenging and can be a little bit tiring. So make sure you take breaks. If you're tired, don't do it overly fatigued. It's about trying to use this process of shadow grappling and visualization to be a more insightful tool for your practice, okay? So if I'm imagining someone's leg is there, I'm going to use the assistance of my right hand on the floor to imagine like it's planted on my partner's hip from here. And I'm going to try and first just observe what movements I can make here as I transfer a little bit of weight into my right hand, okay? So you can see what is my range of motion. Doesn't necessarily have to be movements that are connected to techniques you already know. This will be part of our next exercise. I want you just to explore what is the possibility of movement in this position, okay? Given that we have a couple of fixed points currently, my left foot being on the floor and my right hand being planted on the mat as well. So I transfer a little bit of weight into my right hand. You can try the other side as well. So see now that at first we explored the position from a fixed point. So what does this mean? The fixed point here are my left toes in relationship to the floor. As soon as I disconnect from the floor, my range of motion increases naturally because it has a bigger perimeter to move through, okay? So again, transfer. So let's think about the different hand positions that my right hand could possibly be on my partner's body. So usually when we are training in Gi Jiu Jitsu, this right hand can exist somewhere along the collar, either left or right side, depending on what sort of pass you're trying to execute. The hip, rather mainly the hip though. And some people also have preference to grab the side material of the gi in order to do some sort of knee cut variation. A lot of these sort of passes, okay? So we can play around a little bit with also our hand placement, okay? And again, the nature of not having a body here means that we do have to move our bodies a little bit more in a nuanced manner here. But we can also try some other different exercises that you will feel a little bit more realism and more transferability, okay? So we can try and progress from shifting the weight a little bit higher on the shoulder line. We can try and also go from the position of the Reverse De La Riva to the half guard. Most of the time, please take note, we are trying to keep our active toes. The only time we're looking to relax our toes and stay on our instep is mainly in a position that we're trying to hold or trying to stall, a position where we're trying to aim to be a little bit more stationary, okay, where the pace of movement is slightly slower. If we're looking for the pace of the movement to be fast, then I highly recommend that you have active toes, okay? So again, we can play with the hand positioning between the shoulder line, hip line, the side of the body. We can come from the half guard. I can also transfer the weight over here. Instead of being on my foot, I can transfer the weight to the far side knee to open up this possibility. What can we do with our hands if we switch to this position? So usually in this position, we can visualize that our partner has some sort of knee shield, or they're trying to use their leg and their arms as frames so that we cannot progress above their hip line in this position, okay? So normally, my preference in this position is trying to keep a slightly wider base. So my knee is out, I have my hand posted in the background, and this hand, my right hand, has a C grip here, and I'm putting some active pressure into my partner's shin bone here. So again, notice in the last video, I talked a little bit about the wrist connection to my partner's leg. I'm not keeping a straight wrist, okay? If I keep a straight wrist, there's a tendency to slip. It's also really hard to apply pressure in this direction, okay? But if I just slightly flex my wrist like this allows me to transfer all of the force along my shoulder, my back, through my wrist into my partner's shin bone. Okay, so I have a C grip. I'm going to imagine that I'm going to pummel the leg in this direction at a good given point, okay? So from here, the hand post, the hand is here. I'm gonna lean into this direction in a bit, swoop under, to end up in this sort of position. So I will also make some annotations in the second part of the video, so this is less hippy-dippy. In this position, we have a leg drag to the opposite side of our partner, okay? So how can we train these movements? You can pair a little bit of what we did last week with the cross-step pass and try and find a sensible way that gets us from standing level to level 2, okay? Because we're not trying to stay in our standing position. It's completely impossible to get to Reverse De La Riva if we're continuously standing. So from here, we can imagine that we have the cross step. Maybe my partner's really good at getting their leg out. So from this position, they're looking to get the Reverse De La Riva. We're here, we decide, okay, back. We're in this position. We got the C grip, hand post. When they try to defend or try to come up, we pummel under the leg, under the far side of the leg to come here. And also we can drop. So now we're completely on ground level. And we can pause the exercise here to not overcomplicate the visualization. Really try and build your sequences slowly. Don't try and overcomplicate too fast, okay? So I would limit it to a maximum of 1 complicated move per session, okay? So one more time. So practice any variation of the cross-step passes, and this will be my challenge to you. Try and look at last week's video and see what is the most sensible way for you to get to the Reverse De La Riva position. So again, if I'm showing the same sequence that I just did, I'm going to step, I'm here to get the Reverse De La Riva, so I'm here again, I'm going to transfer the weight over, C-grip, fall back into the leg drag position, okay? If you're already a little bit more advanced in your Jiu-Jitsu journey, please feel free, finish the leg drag, get to another position, and play around, improvise, you'll practice a little bit more. I hope this is helpful, and if you would like a little bit more structure to the program or some reps, I can definitely suggest some in the description box below, but remember this practice it's yours, so you dictate how you want to practice.